The iPhone 16 Pro Max has been out for around 3 to 4 months now, and I think that's a good time frame for like a quick check-in and long-term review of the device that I've been using every day since it came out. So, how is my phone holding up over the last 3 to 4 months? I would say it's actually doing really well, honestly. I've had a few drops, but nothing crazy. The phone has had a tempered glass screen protector on since day one, so I'm pretty confident there are no scratches on the actual display. But there are a few minor scuffs and little dents throughout the frame, but the titanium really holds up very well. There aren't a lot of scratches from normal use, just from whenever I've dropped it. But now I don't usually use a case, but you'll notice that I do have one on here. I've been using this for like the last few weeks. This is Pitaka's tactile woven case. Not sponsored by any means, but I just want to show you that this is one of the rare cases that a naked iPhone user would actually enjoy. At least I do. It's super thin around the frame and it doesn't provide an extra bulk to the iPhone, and it's one that I would recommend. But I'll probably take it off here soon because I do miss that feeling of just having no case on the phone. Now for this year, I went with the new color, and that was the Desert Titanium, and it's fine. I mean, it mostly looks like a light gold, but sometimes in different lighting conditions, it has a little bit of a pink hue to it. And I'm not a fan of that as much, but I'd probably go with black if I had to do it over again, or the natural, which is what I had last year, but I wanted something different. And next year, I'll probably do the same thing. I'll pick from one of those two, unless one of the new color options is something that really piques my interest. The battery life has been excellent, and to be honest, I wasn't expecting that. I think iOS 18 has something to do with that, maybe some better optimization, but also the hardware improvements to the battery this year has led to pretty good battery life. It's definitely better than what I had on my 15 Pro Max, at least in my experience. And I will say, some days are not as great as others, mostly travel days. That's obvious. It's going to take a hit really early and really often throughout the day. I've got a lot of live activities going on for flight information, usually Maps or Uber whenever I land is happening in the background, and that does eat away at battery quite a bit. I tend to bring a battery charger with me whenever I go, and then usually plug that in as soon as I land, but definitely get something that can fast charge your iPhone because it does charge a lot faster, and it gives me the top off that I need before I have to unplug and be on the move again. Now, if you're somebody who needs to know the health statistics and you follow those blindly in order to determine whether I have good battery life or not, which by the way, I wouldn't do that, but here they are. I still have a max capacity of 100%, so no degradation as of right now, but it's only been 107 cycle count. So we'll check in a few months and see how things are going. Then of course, check in at the 1 year mark. Now moving on to camera control, because this was the hot new feature, the new button that's on the right side of the iPhone here. I usually do use this button pretty much every day, but it's only exclusive to being my go-to way of launching the camera app. Nothing's really changed here. I think that's kind of how I was like after 2 weeks of using this phone. I figured this would be the case. Occasionally I use it to open and then start taking photos or videos. Use it as a shutter button, which is definitely one of the ways that you should use it. But I don't really use any of the like half-pressed gestures or swipes or anything like that. I just think it's faster to kind of tap around on the display to get to wherever I need to get to. I would love to know your thoughts on the camera control. Have you found it useful beyond just launching the camera? Let me know down in those comments. Apple Intelligence is another new thing that launched alongside the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max. Even the standard 16 and 16 Plus have Apple Intelligence, but it's also compatible with the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. So if you have any of those phones, I would love to also hear from you in the comments about Apple Intelligence. And I've been trying to use it more and more, but I'm definitely not using it to Apple's fullest potential. And that's just because, a lot of those features, you kind of don't know that they exist, or you forget about them in the time that you might actually want to use it. Some features are super helpful. So writing tools, I mostly use that when I'm trying not to sound really dumb in an important email or text. I tend to rely on that proofread quite a bit. I also get a few different versions of what I'm trying to say with that rewrite functionality. And of course, you can use ChatGPT to come up with something entirely with the prompts that you might have. I've actually tried visual intelligence a few times and it works really well. Now this is exclusive to an iPhone that has camera control, so any iPhone 16. You can go go ahead and long press and it will launch that new UI here, and then you can snap a photo of whatever you're looking at to get more information. You can either Google search or you can use ChatGPT if you need to. And it works really well, especially with restaurants. If you pass by, you get more information, kind of that card style, and then you can make reservations if you need to. And if you know that it's there, it can be really useful. I really enjoy using cleanup in photos when I'm in a pinch and need to remove something from my photos quickly and easily. This feature has definitely improved from when it was released back in the iOS 18 beta days, and I feel like it just keeps getting better and better. And I don't know if that's constantly just being updated in the background or with new releases, and I haven't seen the memo yet on that, but I just feel like every time it just keeps getting better. And the generative fill aspect of the editing process has definitely gotten better. So highly recommend using it if you need to remove something from your photo. I've also really been enjoying my time with Genmoji, but I still think this needs a lot of improvement. Half the stuff that I type out in a prompt, maybe it's my fault, but I feel like some of it is so basic that it should get it correct, and it either is incorrect or I have to swipe through a lot of the different options to get something even remotely close to what fits in the prompt that I was asking for. Now, when it does work, it really does make the conversation more personalized and fun, which is great. I also feel like this is probably one of the few things that most people are using when it comes to Apple Intelligence, but again, I could be wrong, so just let me know down in those comments. Have you been using Genmoji a lot, or even Image Playground, which I will admit is something I definitely do not use that often. And last but not least, the cameras on the 16 Pro Max have had some improvements. We got a new 48 megapixel ultra-wide sensor to couple with that 48 megapixel main. And then if you're on the 16 Pro this year, you now get that 5x telephoto zoom, which is great. But I don't think anything overall really jumps out at me as like, hey, this is noticeably better than the 15 Pro Max. From at least a hardware point of view, I don't think that there's a massive improvement. Even with getting a 48 megapixel ultra wide, I still really haven't noticed a huge difference. Nothing jumps out at me. Now, what is new this year is mostly on the software side of things. The audio mix feature, where you can adjust the isolation of what's in frame or add studio quality effects to the mix or in more of a cinematic blend. That's pretty cool, but I'll be honest, I also don't really use this at all unless I'm testing it out for something. But it is nice to have for when you maybe run into a situation where like background noise is insane and you really need to isolate the person that's in frame and talking, then you can do that. And you can do that pretty quickly and easily, which is always nice to have. I've definitely been using the new photographic styles a lot more, and it really helps to use this area here where you can just adjust and fine tune in that square the mood and the overall aesthetic of the photographic style. I think it makes your images stand out a little bit more. Yeah, it's a filter in the grand sense of things, but like it's a good filter that can be tweaked and not heavily added just by default, which I really love. You kind of add some more customization to the whole look and feel of the images. So I use it a lot more on the iPhone 16 Pro Max than I ever have before. I also use 4K 120, which is definitely something for when I'm shooting B-roll on the go with my phone. I can slow it down in post and have a little bit more of that stability and cinematic approach to the clip, and I'm definitely happy that this exists. I use it a lot on my actual camera, so I'm glad that I can do it on my iPhone when I'm on the go. Otherwise, the cameras are still very much just excellent. Takes fantastic photos and videos in nearly all major lighting conditions, but there aren't any huge improvements that I couldn't live without had I just stayed with the iPhone 15 Pro Max, at least in my opinion. Maybe if I was forcibly stripped of this 16 Pro Max and put back to the 15 Pro, then things would jump out at me. But again, I'm just not using some of these other features yet, or at least a whole lot. Just my opinion though, of course, would love to hear from you, especially if you disagree. Kindly let me know in the comments down below what you're loving about this year's iPhone 16 lineup. I do still think it's a great iPhone. If you're looking to upgrade right now, this is, early January, then yeah, definitely pick one up. You'll be more than happy if you're coming from like a 13 or older. I've had a few people do that recently and they're just blown away by how much better of an experience they're getting. And so I feel like that's okay. You should totally do it. But if you make it past like June or July, hold off for the 17. It'll just obviously make things even better when you decide to update. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This has been Dan with MacRumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you around in the next video.